I'm James Helder and welcome to another episode of the pre-season special. It's the turn of Barcelona this week. I'm quite excited to speak about Barcelona. It seems from the outside one of the most bizarre run clubs at the moment in world football. Can we firstly have a look at Barcelona? Let's take a look at what's been going on around the club. So huge debt mounting. They've recently sold off 25% of the TV rights and merchandise company of Barcelona. What do we make of that, looking from the outside in initially, Simon?
For one of the biggest clubs and possibly one of, if not the most famous club team in world football, the goings on and how it seems to be run at the minute, I think we just described it as a bit Sunday league, it's a bit amateur. It's scary considering, like you said, the stature of the club and the prestige that comes with Barcelona, to all the stories, and it seems to be something else comes out every other day. And yeah, how it's been allowed to get to this stage, I've got no idea. I don't know how the Spanish FA work, but how they've managed or allowed it to get to this situation, the situation that Barcelona are in. And we say it all the time, in any other walk of life, any other business, if you had the debts that they have, or if you're an individual with the debts that they have, you wouldn't be allowed to keep going out and spending money, would you?
No, that's right. And if you look at the 150 million they spend on the trio of players that have come in, so you've got Rafinha, Robert Lewandowski, and the final one, Jules Koundé, that's a lot of money. These are top tier signings, elite signings. Any club who had the books balanced would be great to have these. How are they able to get these marquee players?
I don't know is the honest answer. Like you said, the fact that they still can't register these players, I believe, because they need to make room or they need to approve more income or whatever it is. Like I say, go back to it, it does seem very amateur at the minute in terms of you can sign as many players as you want, but none of them are able to play. It's crazy. I mean, like I said, the size of the club and the stature, you understand why players still want to play for Barcelona. It's one of the biggest clubs in the world and still is, no matter what's going on. But how they're allowed to still bring in players and sign players, and I'm sure we'll touch on it, but they still owe a lot of money to current players. So I'm sure that upsets the apple cart in the dressing room as well. So it's just mad. It's crazy. And we go back to all this Super League stuff that happened a few months ago. And I think it's pretty plain to see why President Laporta wanted that Super League going on now, because they need to find a lot of money sharpish or else they'll be in big trouble.
One man who is under a lot of pressure at the moment is the President Laporta, as you mentioned. A lot of these decisions have got to stay with him, no? If he's in charge of the club, overseeing the finances, ins and outs and everything else, it's a weird system in Spain. Surely, Ben, I'll bring you in. Some of these decisions, he must be liable for this.
Yeah, I think he's obviously got to be liable for a lot of it. It's quite confusing. They seem like they don't really have too much of a plan when it comes to who they're signing. You've got they're signing players in, but they're relying on players like Frankie de Jong to take, wage cuts or to be shifted on to even register these players. But it seems he's given a lot of trust in Xavi to make the players he wants, because it was like with Jules Koundé, it was said that the main contact was when Xavi called Jules Koundé. He called him overnight whilst trying to get the business done, and that was the main pulling factor for Jules Koundé for Barcelona. So it seems like a lot of it is Laporta's putting his trust into Xavi, and what Xavi wants, he gets. But it just doesn't really seem like he's got a real plan, especially for the future, on what he wants to do for the club.
Xavi Hernandez has clearly got huge pull, but if they've not got squad space to register these players, what is going on? You see the likes of Memphis Depay, 7 other players that haven't gone on the tour of America. So if you've signed for Barcelona, okay, and you signed a 4-year contract on £150,000 a week, and now they're asking you to defer your money to carry on playing for the club, and you're seeing these signings coming in. How do you think how do you think people are going to handle that, Simon?
Well, not very well. I mean, as a former player, I'm pretty sure that if I was asked to give up part of my money or part of my wage, or I was owed money, yet players are coming in and being paraded every other day, I would be pretty miffed, to say the least. But like I said, I can't claim to know the ins and outs of how it works in Spain, but how they're even allowed to sign these players when they're in such having such troubles in their finances and having so many players, it is beyond me. They seem to have their own law, their own rules that we'll sell part of a company so we can get more money in. And like I said, in any other walk of life, any other business, you'd have no chance. You go to the bank, ask for a loan, and you show them your finances, and you owe this much, and you got that much expenditure. You're not getting a bean out of anybody. So I do find it strange. Like I said, it's one of the biggest clubs. It's in the top 3 clubs in the world in terms of prestige and obviously history, etc. So you understand why players want to go there, but how they've been allowed to let it get to this stage, I have no idea. And listen, they're still talking about players not being able to register, and they've made some very good signings. Obviously, they've seen Real Madrid kick on this year and win the Champions League, and obviously they're performing much better in their own league. So they're playing catch up a little bit, and it seems a little bit like Harlem Globetrotters. They've gone out and got everyone, and yeah, it doesn't always work, and they've got to find a way, they've got to find means. But from a player's point of view, if I'm Memphis Depay or Frankie de Jong, whoever, who's owed money and been asked to take wage cuts, why would they? Why would you?
Yeah.
So Frankie de Jong's not sat there going, do you know what, I'll take it. Don't worry about giving me however many millions. I'll just watch Rafinha take my place and run down the wing every week. Do you know what I mean? That's not how it works. And I'm sure they'll find a way around it, as these clubs always seem to do. But the whole situation is just it's farcical and amateur, like we described it. It's Sunday League. We've got too many players registered. Let's get rid of a couple so we can bring a couple in. I don't understand how it's been allowed to get to this stage, I'll be honest.
Like you mentioned, branding of the club, it's one of the most popular brands, well recognised in the world, let alone in football. You're now talking about selling TV rights or a percentage of them for the next 50 years. How does that impact the club, the worry of this debt? And is there a real sort of worry that the club could initially fold down the road?
I feel like, I don't know if you agree, but like I think with a lot of it, it's kind of feels like they're pushing their debt problems further forward in the future. They're pushing it backwards to not deal with it right now. You've got teams like Bordeaux have just been relegated from Ligue 1 to the league below because they haven't got the money to stay up. Financially, they're in ruins, but they're still owed 10 million by Barcelona for the sale of Malcolm. They're still owed that money, but they haven't paid that money. So if you're these other teams like Liverpool, they still owe Liverpool money for Philippe Coutinho. If you're one of these teams that haven't got their money back yet, they're signing new players every week, it seems, you just wouldn't be that happy. So it seems like they're just pushing all of their problems that they've got now to the future for someone else to deal with. And Real Madrid winning the Champions League may be a factor in that because they feel like they have to compete now and not further down the future. It feels like they have to compete with Real Madrid now and try and challenge now, but I just don't see how that's going to work for them in the future. I really don't.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. Like the signing of Coutinho, for instance, I always looked at that as a stopgap signing that they paid huge money for. For me, to not have that, still have that debt overhanging the club for the next 15 to 20 years seems a crazy way to run and conduct your business, as Simon pointed out.
Yeah, I just think that some of the signings, well, a lot of the signings that they've made have not actually worked out either, to be honest. So the actual, forget the money side of it, but the recruitment in terms of the players that they've brought in. Look at Memphis Depay. I know it didn't cost like a transfer fee, frankly. They've not set the world alight. They've spent a lot of money, and forget the money side of it, actual recruitment in terms of the players they've brought in. Tell me one that's worked out. Coutinho, for example, they bought him for whatever. Didn't really work out. He's now going to be a mid-table, at best, Premier League player. So I just think
it's these bizarre signings that stick with me, like Braithwaite, for instance. Yeah. Eric Aubameyang. To then sign Aubameyang when he was having his troubles and struggles, getting back on track, and then bring in Robert Lewandowski. It just doesn't make any sense from a team point of view. Maybe Xavi Hernandez hasn't got the final say on the players as much as we think he has.
No, I think that, I think you've hit the nail on the head. pretty certain that he's not pulling all the strings in the players that have come in. Like I said, it has a little bit of a ring of the Harlem Globetrotters where, here we go, we've got a load of good players, now you go and make them perform in a team. And like we've seen on occasions in this country, just having a load of stockpiling the best players doesn't always work, and it hasn't done for them both on and off the pitch. So it'll be interesting to see. They have signed good players, very good players, world-class players, but it's all right signing them. They've got to try and register them and get them on the pitch now. And I think I saw in the paper the other day, if you look across, Barcelona always played 4-3-3. If you look across the front three positions and the players they've got at that club, there's going to be some very, very unhappy top-class players. And you can be the best manager you want, but good luck trying to keep. I think they've got 7. I think there was a list of 7, and you're like, how are you going to fit those 7 into 3 positions? And it just seems a bit of a mess.
It can magnify as well if they're knocked out of the Champions League early and they haven't got those games, or they're knocked out the cup early and they haven't got them extra games. It's a problem. It's okay having all these stars, but you've got to fit them in an 11, or dare I say a 16-man team for the fixtures. So it's going to be a real problem for Xavi Hernandez fitting them in. In which case, does it make getting the likes of Frankie de Jong, Memphis Depay, Marcel Braithwaite off of the wage bill crucial at the moment for Barcelona?
It's got to. They've got to, like you said, that you have a couple of unhappy people. It soon transpires and spreads among the dressing room. And like you said, there was a list the other day of the players they've got just in attacking areas. There's going to be some very unhappy people, and people are on a hell of a lot of money. So I'm not telling Mr. Laporte how to run his club, but I would suggest that getting people out may be more important than getting more people in at the minute. And like I said, just releasing some more funds and getting those players out of there and getting some recouping a bit of money for players that hasn't worked out. Frankie de Jong's not worked out for one reason or another. He's been linked to various clubs over here now for weeks. So I'm pretty sure that they will be trying their best to get players out. But let me tell you, having been not in a position that owed as much money as they have, but when you're owed money by a club and clubs are trying to get rid of you, you want to know that you're damn certain to get that money before you go anywhere.
If you are disrespected like that and your money's been deferred and the club have asked you to take a lesser payment, which you've then done, and then you're not in the team or in the squad or involved, is it quite a burden to deal with as a player?
I think it is. I think you'll get the same old adage thrown back at you that he's on 100 odd grand a week, so it ain't going to be that hard for him, that everybody will say. But I don't care what the principle of it, that he's owed money. It's not that he's just not playing and not in the team. That's a football decision, but he's owed money. They're asking him to forfeit money on something that he agreed. Like, he agreed a contract. Imagine you went in for a job interview and they offered you 40 grand a year, and then 2 months later, we need to bring someone else in. Would you mind just cutting your wages in half? You ain't agreeing to that, are you? So no matter how much you earn, the same principle applies throughout. And listen, he's going to see, he's not a mug. He's not some young kid who's come up through and he's just glad to be there. For example, just taking de Jong as he's a world-class player. He's been sought after for a couple of years now by the top teams. And I think he is being mugged off a little bit. I don't particularly like that saying, but I think he is probably being mugged off a little bit, and he'll be sat there thinking the exact same, let me tell you.
Ben, what's your take on the squad? How much do they need to thin out, and how much of a worry is it if these players don't agree to join lesser clubs for lesser money?
Well, I think there's a lot of positions they can definitely thin out on. I think up top's the main one. They had, the likes of Lewandowski, Aubameyang, Memphis Depay, that de Jong they brought in as well, which was another one of the bizarre signings they signed. Braithwaite. Yeah. Exactly. You've got so many of these number 9s that need to get moved on. And I think as well, it's like they've asked numerous players to take wage cuts now. It's not like it's just been Frankie de Jong. It's been numerous people. You had the whole reason Messi couldn't really stay at Barcelona is because they couldn't really pay the wages. And then he offered to say, I'd pay on pretty much nothing. But then he got shifted on anyway, which is a bit of an odd decision. But from these players that are getting asked, to take these pay cuts for new players coming in, you'd be pretty miffed, to be fair. And I think I just don't see it working. What I don't understand is how they've got the pull at the minute with all these problems. I don't see how they've pulled the likes of Jules Koundé and Rafinha away from Chelsea, even though we guarantee to pay their wages and they'll play just as competitive football. It just doesn't really make sense how they've got this pull still, despite having all of these financial problems where they can't pay their players.
I think that's a valid point. When you look at what's happened to Bordeaux, you look at the situation Derby County found themselves in. Why are clubs of a low profile having their finances under the spotlight and being magnified when Catalan giants of Barcelona seem to be not under the same set of rules?
Exactly.
What's going on?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's been a conversation for a while. You've had it's like Bolton, Derby that have all been put under the hammer with these really harsh point deductions, which have dropped them down numerous leagues, dropped their reputations and stuff. Then you've had teams like Barcelona who've ended up taking loans off other people to keep their team afloat, but their financial fair play don't ever really tend to look at these teams. The same with PSG and stuff like that. They don't really tend to look at these teams. It's probably the politics in football. I don't really know, obviously, but I think there's definitely people that are more respected than others in the politics of football. So it's probably a bit of a scare factor as well with these big clubs, I think.
Is there any chance that, regardless of financial fair play, we could see what happened to your beloved Leeds with the Peter Ridsdale situation, where they put more money in on expenditure than they could get back if they didn't win the Champions League or the league that season? The commercial and viability of the club was put at risk. Is that a similar case for Barcelona at the moment with the players coming in?
I think it's similar. I think Leeds are the biggest club in the world now, always will do. But I think in terms of Barcelona are obviously a much bigger club than Leeds, and the money that they have coming in worldwide is probably on a much bigger scale than it was when we lost out on Champions League. I think Peter Ridsdale's quote was, he lived the dream, and we lived the dream for 1 year, and then we lived a nightmare for 16. I think we missed out on the Champions League the following year, and then that was it. As we all know, it's been well documented. It took a fair few years for us to get back anywhere near the levels we were at, and we're still not there at the minute. But I think Barcelona are in trouble. I don't think they're in trouble of ever getting relegated out of the league. I think they can probably, without being disrespectful, I think they can probably survive over there if they put the youth team out. Do you know what I mean? I don't mean that in any disrespectful way to anybody. I don't think they're going to drop down the leagues, but I think they probably won't be the force that they have been for years. I mean, you always just looked on in admiration. So even you don't even have to go that far back. You looked when they won the Champions League with your Puyols, your Xavis, Iniestas, Messis. It just, you wouldn't think it'd get to this stage where we're having a conversation where you're thinking, they could be struggling. They could be out of the Champions League. They could be in the Europa League. They could be in the Conference League, whatever it is. And listen, I don't think they're in trouble of ever getting relegated like Leeds were at all. But I think they're certainly at a stage now where the giant that they once were in terms of on the pitch, I think they're miles off it. They're way off it at the minute. And that is 99.999% down to the off-field, how the club's been run. And listen, I don't claim to know how to run a football club, but it don't take a rocket scientist to know that if you're £1 billion in debt or whatever it is, it ain't been run particularly well, has it? And you look now, and like I said, every other day it's a story about Barcelona in they can't register this, can't register him, and it just, again, that word amateur, it just seems so amateur that they can't register players. And going back to your earlier point about clubs who have been sanctioned, as is in life, it's always easier to pick on the little ones. We see it in this country. Man City break financial fair play. Now, I'm not going to say they do break it; they might sue me, but allegedly they seem to spend a lot of money, but yet can't sell out their ground, and they've had sanctions where they've been fined. How do you fine someone for financial fair play, breaking financial fair play? It doesn't seem right, and I'm just using them an excuse. PSG, another one. The money they spend and wages, and you do think, look, how do they get away with it? They will get away with it. They'll always get away with it, as is society in general. That the people at the top will always get away with it. But I just think that it's been allowed to get to a stage now where it kind of looks beyond repair. How do they get back to where they were? How do they get back in credit, so to speak? I'm not quite sure, because Real Madrid are just plodding along, probably laughing out the side of their mouths. Just they're going to win the league again. They'll probably be right up there in the Champions League. And after people speaking about them and the whole Super League debacle, they're now the giants. They're out there by themselves in Spain and in the world. They're miles ahead. And for Barcelona, looking from the outside in, I don't know how. I honestly don't know how they get back to where they were in terms of the big giant. They'll always be a big name, but they're a little bit of one of your phrases, James. They're a bit of the banter club at the minute, that they keep signing players, and their reserve team's going to be better than the first team because none of them can play.
I think Laporte's solution will be sell TV rights to the year 4000. Bring out more NFTs that could be sold for £100,000 each. Recently, Barcelona sold their first NFT for £600,000. So do you think that they can try to generate money other ways to bend the financial, the regularities of what's been happening?
Of course, they'll get 80 odd, whatever the ground holds every week. So the amount of money they have coming in every home game, and the shirt sales throughout the world, and like you say, people who watch South America, all over the world, Barcelona will always be Barcelona in terms of its name and its stature. But how it's been allowed to get to this, we go back to the same point. They've obviously, people have maybe been scared to sanction them, or to say, look, Mr. President, you're probably spending a little bit too much more than you should be.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's like the point you make, pick on the little guy. Why are the clubs that are so powerful allowed to break these rules consistently? Ben, I know you're a Chelsea fan, so I don't want to dig you out too much about laws being broken consistently.
Yeah.
What's your take?
It's probably it is a lot of, because obviously it's easier to just smack Bolton, Derby with a points deduction, because there's not going to be as much as an uproar as if you relegated Barcelona. It's not a worldwide ripple effect when that happens with a Derby or Bolton. Everyone hears about him, in up the leagues in English football, and everyone's not too happy by it. But you're not going to, people in Spain aren't going to care if Derby's been hit with a 20-point deduction. People in South America aren't going to care. But if you've got a Barcelona, every single country, every people that watches football is going to know, and they're going to care about it. You're going to have people in, say England, they're going to know about Barcelona being hit with these deductions. So it's a ripple effect. It's probably takes in a lot of fan base and just respect around the world. I think it's always going to be the case. Everyone will get away with it. Chelsea unfortunately didn't get away with it one time. Obviously we got slapped with a transfer ban at one point, but that ended up kind of being more of a blessing than it was a curse, I think, in the end, because it forced players like Reece James and Mason Mount through the ranks, I think. But yeah, I think they will continue to get away with it. It's just the politics of it, isn't it?
Well, we'll see what will happen with Barcelona. I'm quite intrigued to see where fringe players that they bring in, like Christensen, for instance, from Chelsea, was just sort of solidifying himself in the Chelsea team, playing really well. He's now gone to Barcelona. Should he not be worried about 3 months from now expecting that deferred payment letter, acceptance letter coming through the post?
Exactly. He should be. And it was more, I don't think there was like a big internal issue with Christensen at Chelsea. I think it was just a case of he just wasn't consistent enough for us. But then obviously he's gone to Barcelona on a free, so it was kind of a win-win for numerous people. I think he's definitely got to be worried about the fact he might not get his money, because he was on good enough money at Chelsea. There's no doubt about that. He was on good enough money, but it just goes back to that thing. It's like, especially with the South American players, I find it's like Rafinha, the beyond and end all for them is Barcelona. That's their, if you had to ask, South American players where they want to play, where they want to finish off, it's Barcelona. So when push comes to shove, players like Rafinha are going to pick Barcelona over the Chelsea, because that's the pinnacle of football for the South Americans, you find.
They grew up watching Ronaldinho in a Barcelona shirt, or Ronaldo.
Exactly.
You're terrorising. You spend your childhood watching.
Exactly.
You're going to try to emulate that, I guess. Big blow losing Rafinha. Big sigh.
Do you know what? He released something saying why he didn't go to Chelsea, saying that his dream was to play for Barcelona. His agent's obviously Deco, who's played at Barcelona. I think he played with Xavi, which helps. But the bit that annoyed me the most, listen, he's a top class player and he should be playing at those levels. But it was the bit where going, yeah, we've been speaking to Barcelona since, I think he said March or February. And to be brutally honest, he was crap for Leeds for the last 2 or 3. He looked like a sulky kid. And apart probably from the Brentford game, which was the final game where he scored a penalty and he played well, he went through a stage where he was really, he looked like a baby who'd thrown his toys out of the pram. And that's the thing that annoyed me the most. I didn't begrudge him any move going anywhere from Man United, obviously, which no one's allowed to do that. I don't begrudge him any move whatsoever, but the bit annoyed me the most and left a bit of a sour taste. I know it left a sour taste in quite a few Leeds fans, mate, was when they came out and openly said, yeah, we've been in contact with Barcelona since March, blah, blah, blah. We were in a relegation battle, and that melts off talking to Barcelona. It's not, it weren't for me, that. So I hope he's not ready. I would have loved to have watched him play for Barcelona, and I wished him all the best. Not that he really cares what I think, but now he said that, I'm like, good. I hope you get your 3 months deferred wages, because Leeds got 2 or 3 months where you look like a 14-year-old kid who weren't allowed his phone or something. So serves him right.
It's interesting to see how he handles being a fringe player with no money coming in.
I think, like you say, the South American, I think he's probably not been promised to play every week. You look at him, he was a top player for Leeds, but let's be honest, at Barcelona, he's not a nobody, but he's still finding his way. Nobody had heard. I'd not heard of him. People hadn't heard of him up to 2 or 3 seasons ago, and then he came over and he did well at Leeds, and obviously he earned his move with his performances. But he ain't going to Barcelona as a Lewandowski or someone like that, where people go, "Whoa, he nearly won the Ballon d'Or." I can't see him starting.
18 months, I think you'll be getting him back. I think he'll be coming back, lad.
No,
loan to permanent deal in 18 months. Don't think he's going to be back.
Don't want him, mate. Don't want him. Stay where you
He'll
are.
be having humble pie when he's back.
Take it, yeah. He won't start speaking to us in March when Barcelona are still playing. Let me.
When his money ain't come. He's playing in Barcelona B.
Yeah,
exactly. Away.
Yeah.
How happy he is then. Yeah, it's interesting to see what develops with Barcelona. I'm sure there'll be some more surprises. Laporte, as we mentioned, anything can happen with him in charge of the club at the helm. I expect some more Harlem Globetrotters to be announced over the next week or so.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens with that. Simon, it's great to have you back on the panel. Loving that. Great to have you back with us. Ben, great to have you with us again. Getting a little bit more regular on the show, which I've got a lot of time for. If you are watching this on YouTube, please download the Pitch Football app. It's completely free. Competitions, giveaways, fan stuff, opinions, foreplay, plus loads of other things that I can't mention. Thank you very much for your time today. It's great to have you on, and we'll see you guys real soon. Thank you.